All right, welcome back, everybody,
Yep.
to
Glad
part
to be
two
back.
of our show with Puck.
Part
Puck,
deux.
welcome back. Part two. This time it's personal.
Yep.
Puck. So when we ended last time, we were talking a little bit about Top Gun, MOTS 1, the differences. You had just finished up Top Gun, going back to 101 to be instructor. I kind of asked a little bit, but I've been racking my brain all week. Can you please explain in detail your game plan for Snort? Obviously, you didn't get a chance to fight him, but
Right.
what was the actual game plan going to be, and how are you going to lie, cheat, and steal to get your spot in the Top Gun?
Okay. Well, and it's actually pretty basic, and most Tomcat F-14A guys will know the plan because it really was the only good fight that the F-14A had. So it was an aggressive nose low two circle fight, and almost pure vertical nose low, like way out of plane. Force him to go the same way. His only real option, is to go with me, is in an A. So we'll both be basically opposing canopies. Merge again, do that again. Eventually, you're going to end up on the deck, and it's in that transition that you try to force it to a one circle fight. So as you cross the tail, even if you have to give up that turning space, you turn it into a one. You go from two circle flow to one circle flow, and you force a flat scissors. So then you're just biting, and we talked about this earlier. Who's going to cheat better? Who's going to get the flaps down? And I promise you, Snort's flaps would have been down. His aux flap circuit breaker would have been pulled, so it's just the main flaps. The ECS would have been off, so we had, we called it Zone 6. It gets really quiet, by the way. It gets really hot. You get a lot, like I said earlier, you get a lot of lights. And if you haven't pulled LE1, LE2, which are the wing sweep circuit breakers, you've manually pulled the wings out. I just fought with the wings in manual anyway. A lot of guys did. Because the computer's based off indicated Mach number, or indicated airspeed, which is not the way you need to fight the plane. So, and really, there were only two settings in the F-14. You either had the wings 4 to 20, regardless of how fast you're going, if you're going to fight, or you had them back if you're running away. So it was, I'm fighting or I'm fleeing. And there was no reason to really be, 45, all you did, if the wings started to, if you're getting fast and they started to come back a little, you're just going to arc. So it was a lot better to have them out at 20 and modulate your pull. I mean, we weren't overpowered by any stretch, so that typically wasn't a huge issue.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was just a force, basically two circle merges until we get down to the deck, and then move it to a one circle fight, and then find out if he was good at fighting the one, the flat scissors, as everyone says he was. They say he was a wizard because he would fly. Everyone's like, dude, he will fly into you before he gives up any turning space. I'm like, well, that's great, because then we two guys will fly into each other. So I guess we'll just be a fireball together.
He was a Commodore too. Those are his.
He was a Commodore. Yeah, no, he flew all the time. I mean, he was doing air shows as a Commodore.
Yeah.
I
think that's where I ran into him, because that would have been 95, 6, I think, time frame, right?
Yeah, he single-handedly got the whole world in trouble because he was doing air shows with GE engines when we were in the illegal afterburner phase. Like, afterburner was prohibited except for wartime mode. We'd lost a couple jets. I was in the RAG when we lost the first one. Bill Daisley and Phil, it was Fred Dillingham, Zippo, who was in my office at Fighter Wing. They were doing a FAM. He was an LSO A6 guy coming through on a cross train, and they were doing his mock run, and the plane blew up. So we had an afterburner liner burn through, and the left can, it ate through the engine housing, ate through all the hydraulics on the left side. The stabs went full up, that minus 35 Gs. They died instantly. Plane disintegrated. The biggest piece they found was like a 2-foot honeycomb piece. They were piecing that jet together for months in the hangar. Little teeny pieces, like a jigsaw puzzle. But for probably 10, 15 months, using afterburner with the GE engines was prohibited after that, because we'd had other issues before. So that was the nail in the coffin. And they had to come up with an inspection and a fix on the ceramic lining for the GE 110. So unless you were in war, you were not allowed to use afterburner. and I guess wore or snort during an air show. Was the caveat.
Morale.
Yeah,
that was the
The
catch.
143 guys came back. They're like, he parks it after doing an air show. 143 donated, and they're like, well, we've got like 17 hits in Afterburner this weekend. Like, okay. Because the B did tell on you. It had a FEMS. It had a fatigue engine monitoring system. So
Okay.
it would report over stresses. It reported what you were doing with the motors. It was not what we have SDRS or any of this, or the data systems we have now, but it was
Mhm.
it was the initial. I had to learn how to fight that because in an A you're just used to doing whatever you want to do. There was no
Whatever, yeah.
monitoring.
When you talk about pulling the circuit breakers, is that on the deck or are you doing that pre-merge?
Pre-merge.
Getting okay, so getting everything
Yeah.
set up to
Yeah, you
fight,
get
all
everything
that
set
stuff's
up.
coming off.
There were 2 in the front, probably 7 in the back, 6 or 7 in the back that we had to pull. And it was, like I said, it was not something, and not everyone did it. I mean, I didn't do it every fight. I did it if I knew I needed it. If you're fighting a Viper or some Air Force guy, you didn't want to, it's like, but it was the best fight. I mean, it did give you probably another 1,500 pounds of thrust total. And again, our wing sweep program wasn't optimal for ACM. It was more for intercepting. So taking that sort of out of the equation helped a lot as well. So those 2 things. And then with the flaps down, it just really became a very stable, slow fighting plane. So you could really, you could very easily get that thing 80, 90 knots.
Yeah.
And just,
And
and
stick
that
on the
stop,
rudders.
yeah, you're just basically putting on a tail. And there isn't a plane in the world that won't flush out in front of you. It just, so it's, if you can, even if you're initially defensive when you make that turn to one circle, you're not going to be defensive long if you can keep the plane. Now, the problem was there were guys that would try this and then the nose won't stay up and you start all of a sudden porpoising and then you start getting fast and you start dipping into, you drop the nose, next thing you know, you're 130. So next, all of a sudden you're even with the guy and you're getting out in front of him. So you had to be very careful. And some planes, if they were really bent, you couldn't do it. I've flown, you do a profile and you check it out. I'd always check all the planes and some of them were just so bent. It's like this thing, it's only going to get, as slow as it gets is 120. Below 120, the thing just falls off to the left or something. You can't control it. You literally had to stick, I won't say in your lap, but you had it pretty far aft and you were just using the rudders to move the plane left and right. So it was just a rudder walk. And, but if you had a straight jet, it was something that the F-14A really did well.
Nice. And then what with the D, we'll get to that a little bit later when you get to VFA2, but how did that change with the better motors?
The D, the better motors helped significantly. You almost never had to cheat in a D. It just flew really well. And the B also, the B was actually even better because it was lighter than the D. But the ACM modes in the D were better. So it was sort of a wash in that regard. But, and honestly, you could really damage a B or a D because it was so powerful. So if you were cheating like that, like you were in no danger of damaging an A because it was it was so underpowered that it was, things weren't going to get out of control very fast. In a B or D, if you weren't on it all the time and you were alternately configured, you could really hurt the plane. So you had to be very careful. Yeah, I very rarely did things like that in a D.
Got it.
Was that by design or just by, I'm thinking about the fact that we were talking to an Air Force guy earlier, and he's talking about, we had to do everything by the books, right? You had to perform this maneuver, then you had to exactly perform this maneuver, right? And so
He's an Air Force guy.
Navy, right? And that's what I mean.
They would never do any of the shit I'm talking about.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the B and the D, they weren't changed to make it less easy to go and maneuver and around those things, right?
Digital flight controls came along
Okay.
in the late 90s. So that was one of the first things that really helped the F-14 out. And then by that point, A guys were fading away. By the end, it was just Bs and Ds. And then at the end, it was just Ds. So we got rid of the As first. So by the end, I would say the last generation Tomcat guys, there's probably no A guys left. I'm one of probably the few A guys that finished flying the Tomcat because everyone else all my JOs were all D babies. So they had no idea that we never had a HUD, that we didn't have all the shit that we had. It was like, yeah, if I showed them a HUD footage from an A, they'd be like, what is that? And I'm like, well, you can't tell, it's a cross. I mean, what else do you need?
Yeah.
We had pitch lines and a cross. It was literally, there's no airspeed, no altitude. There wasn't shit on our HUD. It was like just an SA suck hole. So, you know, and the B got the upgrade HUD. So they put a new HUD in the B, which was really nice upgrade. And that was a great addition to that plane. So that plane was, I won't say it was as good as a D, but it was nearly as good as a D at the end. So all the F-14s out there were not the F-14s that, you know, your dad flew, literally. And yeah, so it was, and you know, I'm fortunate that I got to see it all, but guys that always make fun of the Tomcat as far as a fighter, you know, ACM wise, never probably, you know, a lot of the reputation of the Tomcat was predicated on the A. And it took a good driver to make that thing lethal. I mean, it was not an easy plane to fly. So there's a lot of HUD footage of F-14As out there, certainly in Hornet world. So I understand why everyone that, you're like, oh, I've got HUD footage you forever. I'm like, whatever, dude. But I would also challenge them, like, you throw Rat Willard or Snort or Roscoe out there against anybody, and you're not going to get HUD footage. You're going to get grilled. Quick Roscoe story. My first cruise, we end up fighting MiG-29s in Deschio Manu, East German. Or German, sorry. This is after the fall. So yeah, but you know, they were East German and now they've become German Air Force. So everyone's excited to fly against the MiG-29 for real. It's like, no shit, MiG-29s. So we sent a det out there. Roscoe was our det OIC, and he savages this MiG-29. He doesn't have a working blue tube, doesn't have a working radar. He has a Iron Cross gun sight. Our normal gun symbology isn't working, and he validates a kill, and it was the HUD footage for Fighter Fling that year. He gun kills this dude, and he stitches this dude for probably 30 seconds just to make sure he's dead. But I promise you that a MiG-29 is now like, I had no idea an F-14 could do any of that. I'm like, well, that's Roscoe. So, you know, in the right hands, a Tomcat can do good things.
Hell
That's
yeah,
crazy.
man. We should just like make episodes that are fighter fling footage. Like,
Oh yeah, and honestly, I guarantee your dad
tell your story. That'd be actually awesome. That's an awesome idea.
It was, and then you hear him calling the guns kill in his Southern fried Cajun accent. Kill, MiG-29, left hand turn. It's like, well, that's Roscoe. Like, you know, not that everyone fought a MiG-29, so it was with that shitty gun sight, you know, symbology going on. But yeah, he had just literally stadiometrically ranged it. And honestly, the MiG-29 was so big in his HUD, it's like you could have thrown a grapefruit at him at that point.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah, I would love to see that. Fighter fling footage always makes me wish I was an aviator. There's nothing that makes my
yeah, this would have been like fighter
body sing more.
Probably 95. Probably Fighter Fling 95 would have been, if you look at that one.
I'll look for it. I bet I can find it somewhere.
Yeah, and
online.
If you have the CD of all the last fighter flings, it's that video's in there somewhere. So
I'm sure that I know a man who does.
Yeah.
So I'll just have to ask. We could, you know, what we should do? We should get to Wheels' house and we should just fucking play all of them, all of them on repeat, and drink copious amounts of alcohol.
Sounds like a plan.
That sounds like a great idea.
Great idea. I
think we got our Christmas special.
Right, exactly. And we'll just be recording in the
conference
background.
complete. Let's go. I'm back with you.
Dude. Talk about all the bloopers we can film there. Okay, so it's funny as heck to me, Puck, when we were doing, like, you know, the intro and before we recorded, when you said that you almost didn't want to fly anymore at 101, I was kind of floored because, like, no, I had never gotten that impression from you. And so I would love to hear you talk about the calculus that was going on at that time and, like, what made you break through to not stop flying.
It was the end of my time at VF-32. So I had a very extended tour at 32 because I was the pilot training officer. And I was the skipper's driver, Pink, who was a great dude and is a great dude. But I can tell you that, you know, I won't name a name, but the XO and I did not get along. And the skipper and the XO weren't real tight either. And it kind of wore me out being in the middle because I was a senior JOPA guy. So Pink would like pull me into his room. He's like, all right, I need to talk to you. You need to tell me what's going on with the JOs. And I'm like, they're not thrilled, sir, because a lot of these guys are going to be here. I mean, I was leaving. So I you know, if I'd been around for that, I probably wouldn't, I would have been flying an orange and white aircraft. That's how much we didn't get along. So, I was extended 4 months to finish that second cruise, and I was fried. I'd been gone for, you know, I had over a year and a half at sea in my first tour in a squadron. I'd made 2 full workups, 2 long cruises, and I had, up until that point, I'd only had great COs and XOs. I mean, the front office was great. And then I hear all these other stories from my friends. And I'm like, oh, that would suck. That would really suck. But it never affected me. I had great 04s. Everybody was nice. It was a great squadron, great enlisted leaders. And then I see what could happen. And I can imagine. And it got bad in 32 after I left. Not because I left, but because Pink left. And it was a little grim. And I'm like, you know what? If your happiness is so contingent on that sort of hierarchy and leadership, I'm like, I don't want to roll these dice. I'm just going to go to the RAG. I'm going to go to Top Gun, go to the RAG. I'm going to find a F-16 unit that wants me somewhere. I was looking at Wisconsin, going to Madison, and I don't even know why. It's like, I know, Taco, I know it's home for you, but I was just like, you know, I'd been there once. I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I'll go. Yeah, pretty country, and they've got Viper.
Good college town.
Yeah.
Beer and cheese curds.
Yeah.
What else could you
want?
want?
One of my friends was up there, so I was like, all right, I'll try. Another guy had gone to Top Gun to go there. So, and they literally, if you had a Top Gun patch, you could get in any Viper unit. So I'm like, all right. And then I get to VF 101 and all the pilots are quitting. You know, and these are all number 1 guys out of all the squadrons on the flight line. These are guys that are like, yeah, I was on one, I'm done. I'm sitting here. I've got my application into United, you know, literally. And we even had the Alpha magazine on the coffee table in the ready room. Like, I'm like, this probably isn't the message that the RAG instructors need to be sending to the young guys that are going through. But they didn't stop it. And finally, I was like, I talked to the officer, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to be a dick because I'm the new guy here, but I'm pretty sure having the Alpha magazine and all this airline shit just sitting there doesn't need to send a message to these guys that, you know, this isn't where we need to be. I wasn't so hard over and getting out, but after a year of flying with the guys in the RAG, I was like, this is fun again. I liked it. I had great leaders there as well. You know, it's a post-command tour, so those skippers they don't really care. I mean, they've been here, done that. They've got great guys up and down the flight line running their shit. So I had the best OPSOs, the best training officers, and I was like, flew with these guys. And I learned a lot from all these guys. I mean, you know, when you get a bunch of young guys that love flying, you go on deck down to Key West, you go out to El Centro, and you're dropping bombs, and you're doing all this other stuff. And you're talking about mistakes that your students make. It's like you hear... It's the best place to learn your plane is in the FRS because that's all you're dealing with. It's like if you're not teaching it to a young guy, you're teaching it to an old guy. I'm teaching it to a Cat 2 or a Cat 3. You know, I taught Brick Nelson how to fly it. You know, we had to do a flip flop with him, and it's, you know, so a lot of these aviation legends come through, and you're like, hey, hop in, let's go for a ride. And after a year or so of that, I was like, you know what? I think I might be interested in staying in. You know, I wasn't hell bent on going to the airlines, and I'm too lazy to figure anything else out to do. I'm not good at anything else. I can only fly planes, so I'm like, all right. I'd rather fly cool planes and not have to deal with people. So, yeah. After 2 years, I was definitely in. That's when I took the baby bonus and. You know, my friend from school, Ray Worthington, and I were talking about it, and we're like, yeah, he goes, I'm going back too. I like it. And Ray's a great driver. He was in my MOTS class. So I was like, all right. And then it became, I won't say we set the trend, but then it started to become cooler to stay in. For a while, it was cooler to get out, but then we kind of turned the tide a little, stemmed the flow of losing a lot of really talented people. And we were able to start keeping some guys. And I would argue, the RO side, the Rio side, we kept a lot of that talent. It was the drivers that wanted to go fly for the airlines for some unknown reason. And so by the time I left, I would say probably 70% of the guys that were in the FRS are going back to the fleet, which is,
That's pretty good, yeah.
from when I got there, it was well under half. Which is a lot. I mean, it was 90% of the pilots and probably 70% of the or 30% of the Rios were getting out. So, I mean, that's a huge loss of really good people. I mean, you're looking at some really high performers. Every one of these guys was the number one dude out of the first squadron. So hemorrhaging that kind of talent was going to take its toll on a community that we can't afford to lose good people. The plane's too hard to work. So when we started keeping really good guys, it got better. And then I remember I'm going back to the fleet. I'm going to D's. So I'm excited about that. Now I have to learn how to fly the D. I'm going to VF2, and I'm going to miss my Super JO tour altogether. I'm a real senior 03. They frocked me to 04 to just send me out the door as a department head. So I ended up doing a 3-year department head tour. Yeah. And which was great. I mean, 2 more deployments, but 2 more workups, but it was a great squadron, and it was the D. And I needed 2 years to figure out the D. But I walked into Butkus's office. He was our OPSO at the time, and I'm telling him who I'm going to go to the boat with. I'm going to go to the boat with Abdul, who's my Rio from Top Gun. He's a weapons school instructor, and that's like the one good deal you get as an instructor going back is you can kind of pick your Rio. He was like, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm not?" He's like, "Somebody's already picked you to go to the boat." I'm like, and I lose my shit. I just start screaming, like a spoiled child, like I'm holding my breath. And he's like, "Yeah, there's a PD CAG who wants to go to the boat with you. He's going to be PD CAG too." And I start screaming even more because now I'm going to the boat with an 06. So I'm just like, I've gone from having this bouncing fun time with one of my best friends to bouncing with some 06 that I'd never heard of. Don't know. So Butkus calms me down pretty quickly because he had a very soothing voice, and he's like, "Puck, this guy is great. You're gonna love him." I'm like, "I don't care." No. He's like, he goes, "Do this. Do me a favor." He's like, "Call Lou Shager, who is one of my best friends, and it was like one of the FRS instructors." He goes, "Ask him about this guy." And I'm like, "All right." His name was Steamer Beeman, Jerry Beeman, later Vice Admiral Beeman. So I call Lou, and I'm like, "Lou, tell me about this guy. He was apparently your skipper in 211. He's like, "Steamer?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, he's the best dude in the world. I love him like a father." And I'm like, "Wow."
Okay.
Right? Well, we end up becoming very close. But by the end, it ended up being, he's one of the men I admire most. He's another, he was an old Top Gun instructor, old West Coast Rio, but he's just, in addition to being a great Rio, he's a great guy. And it really made my transition in VF2 a lot of fun because I had a great skipper. I had one of the best skippers I ever had, best XO I ever had, and the best CAG I ever had all at the same time. So it was really a special time. VF2 was a great situation.
That's amazing. How long did it take you to decide that Beamer was a good dude? How many flights?
Once Lou said that, Lou's very opinionated, and he's not. I'm very outspoken about shit. Like Lou is a gentleman.
No.
Yeah, I know. No.
What?
So you're saying there's a chance.
No.
Lou is a very, when it comes to, he'll tell his closest friends the truth, but you may not know where you stand with him all the time because he's just a really nice guy. And, he won't tell you right to your face initially you're an asshole. If you keep being an asshole, he will. He's also, he can be very blunt, but he's very, he's a velvet hammer. I'll say that. But he had nothing but the greatest things to say about Steamer. And within 30 seconds of talking to him, I could tell it was a true bond that they had. And they did. It turned out that Lou was his pilot when Steamer was a skipper. And so, I ended up being his pilot when he was a CAG. And we had a lot of stories to tell because Steamer is just, in addition to being a really good Rio, he's just really fun to fly with. And, I said earlier, one of the cool things about the Tomcat is if you're flying with somebody fun, it's just one of the greatest things in the world. But, it's a double-edged sword because if you're flying with an asshole, it just becomes torturous.
It's true.
Yeah.
True.
So, yeah. Steamer's just such a great dude. I mean, we're still friends to this day. So,
It's awesome.
he lives down in North Carolina. Whenever we're together, or around each other, we get together. Yeah.
His name on many occasions. It's
Yeah.
very familiar. So.
Yeah, he ended up being Third Fleet was his last job in the Navy. So, but just a great dude.
So you talked about being Frocked 04, showing up, baby hinge. What was that like? So 3 years is a long time, right? And that peer leadership, and then into you probably did every job under the sun.
I did all four of them. I started out as admin. No, I was safety first. I don't even remember the order I did them in. I was a safety officer, didn't go to safety school. So that was always fun. They're like, we don't have time to send you to safety school. You can figure it out on the way. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Yeah. Don't worry about me. I have no idea what I'm doing again. And luckily that only lasted for 6 months till my roommate and another close friend, Tom O'Dowd, Tip, showed up. Tip was going to safety school. So just hold it together for 6 months. Tip will get here. Once Tommy's here, he'll be the safety officer and you're moving to admin. So then I was the admin officer. And when I was admin officer, I lost my admin O. I lost my YN chief, and my senior enlisted was an RM2 who made RM1, and then the rate switched to IT. So he was a radio man that when they combined all the rates, he ended up becoming an IT1. He had as little idea about admin as I did, so that was a really fun experience. The two of us,
quality paperwork.
Yeah, like any idea what the internet's still fledgling at this point. Google has just started to become a thing. I mean, take you back in time here. Literally, Google was like in its second year because I used the shit out of it. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing as the admin officer. Then after that, Then it was ops and maintenance, which are easy. Not easy, but there's things I understand. I can get my arms around that. Both those jobs. But yeah, the first two, my admin and safety officer career was checkered at best.
Was it hard for you to keep up on tactics as a department head while you start balancing the ground job and
it was a little. I joined them on cruise, so I got sent. Okay. I went right out with Steamer. We went out together. Joined them in the Gulf. And initially it was fine because I didn't really, they were cool about it. Hey, just, for that, I made the last 4 months of deployment. So they're like, hey, just fly the plane. We'll get you a real job. You can kind of follow along. And then, it was when I got back, we had 1204s by the time I left.
Wow.
Yeah, my fit rep my last fit rep in VF2 was one of 1204s.
Dang.
That's how big the squadron was. It was we had people that were there forever. And on the upside, it gave you more EPs, more MPs, but it was just, if you were looking to screen for command, it was, it was a long line. And they did a great job. So it was Randy Parrish, Toole to Kelly Barrett or Booger, who that was the best front office I ever worked for, hands down. Two just unbelievable, great guys, very level-headed. Toole was a great pilot. Booger was a great Rio, and they were both really good at all their jobs, and they were great guys. So they're like, hey, Puck, Keep working hard at that. I've been a maintenance officer and I can be it again if you don't if you don't get better. I'm like, huh, I see what you're saying here. But I flourished under their leadership. It was really good. And the other 04s were great. We had Keith Kimberly, we had Paul Bernardo, obviously Tom O'Dowd. I mean, it was a really stacked ready room, a really talented. I mean, all these guys ended up going on screen for command, which was another testament to how they timed it all, so they could get all these guys through with tickets. So I learned a lot on all of that too, as far as timing. And Booger Kelly Berger was not only Top Gun guy, but he was a Bupers guy, so he really knew how the inner workings of DC to Millington worked, when PERS moved out to Millington. And so he knew the timing, he knew how to, get guys through at the right time and what he had to do. And he even recruited, I won't say cannon fodder, but he recruited guys that were solid dudes, but just weren't going to be skippers. And you need, I hate to say it, but you need guys like that. You need guys that are going to be good squadron guys that are still solid in the aircraft, can lead JOs and troops if they need to. But they realize that you're probably not going to leave here with a number one ticket, or if you do, it's going to be a 1-on-1 out the door. And we had 2 or 3 of those guys but they didn't let that. The writing was on the wall, but it didn't affect how they performed, which was really a testament to their professionalism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then so on those cruises, that's pre 9/11, right? So you're doing Southern Watch, Northern Watch?
That is. So my second cruise, I am on September 10th. We are pulling out of, we've been in the Gulf for 6 months. We're pulling out of Hawaii with Tigers on board.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll never forget it. So, and I'm the supersonic, we're doing the Independence Day air show on the carrier. So we're going from from Pearl Harbor to San Diego. The Connie's going to pull into San Diego. All the Tiger's going to disembark. So we've already lost probably, how many guys would fly off for a Tiger cruise? 1,500, troops and random people. So we're down a significant part of the air wing. And September 10th, we pull out, go to bed. I wake up the next morning. I'm down in the ready room getting ready in the air show brief. The whole air wing brief is at like 10 in our ready room. And, the supersonic flyby is like the last thing. So I'm like, I'm not worried. And it's like, yeah, just fly low and fast. Check. Timing's easy. Got it. Go as fast as you can. Not real complex. It's right up my wheelhouse. So I'm having breakfast and one of our young guys, Tony Chulik, she goes, man, somebody just flew in the World Trade Center. And the way he said, I'm like, oh man. And we start making fun. Like, how could you fly in the World Trade Center? No idea that this was intentional. Like, I thought it was like a Cessna that flew, just doing shit and somehow got lost and whatever. He's like, no, it was an airliner. And I'm like, all right. That doesn't make sense. They must have had some really serious problems to, not be able to control to the point where they fly into the World Trade Center. So I'm like, none of this is making sense. So we finished breakfast pretty quickly and we go down into our ready room. And, the Connie, we were down in Ready 4, which is down the escalators. The Connie had escalators, which was pretty cool. So all the other squadrons were up on the O2 level. We were down on the second deck. So you literally had to take the escalator down to ours. And our ready room was like massive. It was huge, which is why we had all the air wing events in it. So we had the big TV screen up, and I walk in and you can see that they had the news channel up, and you can see one of the buildings is smoking. And no shit, a minute after I walk in, I watch Dash 2 fly into the Second Trade Center, and I'm like, oh, this is all right. This is planned. And like you instantly understood what was going on. Became pretty clear, and you could feel the boat slow down. Like all of a sudden, it's like because every time the Connie's changed speeds, she shook like a motherfucker. I mean, it was a bucket of bolts. So she slows down, and then she starts to turn her back around, and I'm like, oh boy, it's on.
Here we go.
Yeah. So we were steaming back towards Pearl Harbor for about 2 hours. We'd been out for probably 18 hours away from Pearl at this point. And the admiral gets on. He's like, hey, we are under attack. We are going back to Pearl Harbor. We're going to drop the Tigers off. We're going to, they'll obviously, we'll get them home. Don't worry about them. We're going to try to recall as many people as we can, but we're going to resupply and we're heading back. We're going to go back. So I'm the maintenance officer during this. So I grab all the troops and they are fired up. I'm like, hey guys, I know it's been a long deployment. I know we did a lot of shit. I go, but here's what's happened, and we're going back. And there wasn't a dude, I had 180 guys. They were all excited to go back. They were like, we can't wait. We want our pound of flesh. And so we were pretty fired up. About 6 hours after that, the boat slows down again. And they're like, hey, we have been told to stand down. So they switched all the carriers. So we hurry back to San Diego. We get all our jets back. We dump all the Tigers off. Get our jets back to Oceana. We're now the surge carrier, and now we're assigned Noble Eagle. So we are now flying the missions over DC. We're loaded with weapons over our own cities with orders to shoot down planes, which I'm like, okay, this one's hard to get my arms around, shooting down a plane of civilians. It's not, I don't think that's what I signed up for. So we had to, talk our way through that one. The lawyers came in, were explaining, that this shouldn't happen. If it does happen, it's 100% sure that this plane's headed towards, the plane isn't going to make it anyway. They're just going to fly into a population center before it happens. So we're going to figure out a place to shoot them down, and you can, at that point, just shoot them down. And we had to talk about weaponeering. How do you shoot down an airliner? Like, do you gun it? Do you missile? What do you use? So we worked through the best way to shoot it down. So it minimized pieces literally as it's going down. And we flew those missions for probably 6 weeks over DC, along with the Air Force guys out of Langley and, other places. There were a bunch of us flying from everywhere. But this is back when Oceana and Taco, you probably never saw it like this. It didn't have a fence that went around the base, man.
Really?
No, I mean you could have walked from Harper's Ferry Road onto runway 5 in 4 minutes without ever coming to a fence line. Yeah, and we were joking about it because I'm like, there was this, all of a sudden they're upping security. I'm like, you can still walk onto the airfield from like 2/3 of the area around the base. It doesn't have a fence that goes around it. So we fixed that pretty quickly. And then they moved, the gate used to be, did you even know where the gate used to be?
No, I've only known it where it's at.
So the gate used to be about 200 yards further down. It was right before the sign, the marquee sign. It was probably 100 yards in front of that. You can see an old building there. The building's still there. It's just not that, but that was the front gate to Oceana. But they had to back all this stuff out. I mean, it took, and then we even adjusted our work hours because we went to like 4 a.m. shifts to avoid traffic problems. We just couldn't get everybody on the base because security, it took so long to get to work that we had to do it in shifts. So I felt sorry for the security guys. It was a nightmare. Nobody knew what was going on. We didn't know where the next attack was coming from. It was a little weird.
Yeah. What were the briefs like for that? I mean, you're doing it for 6 weeks. They're pretty standard. Is it just like
standard.
2-4
Honestly,
hour balls?
The biggest concern was always the ROE. Where we were going, how long we were going to be there wasn't a big deal. And there still wasn't a lot of traffic. I mean, there weren't planes flying everywhere yet. They were just starting to filter some commercial aviation back in. But we had AWACS airborne. And I mean, we also had our own FAA guys, who are great. So, I mean, it wasn't like we didn't know. We had a perfect picture of what was going on. Yeah. But it was always just, I mean, you're used to flying circles loaded for bear over bad guy country where you're like, I don't care what I do. It's like, if he's a bad guy, he's going to get shot. But when you're like the bad guys in United flight filled with Americans, you're like, all right, I need to think this one through a little.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's heavy. That's
Yeah.
you just stuff you don't sign up for, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure I can pull this trigger.
Yeah, and like in so many ways, right? It's pre 9/11, post 9/11 of a world we live
And
in
that's
today.
that's
Just-
exactly what it
that's
was. It
another
was
one
like,
too.
and
It's
I
interesting.
was part of this whole, life defining change of, now I understand why. Hey, if you got to shoot him down, shoot him down. Trust me. By the time I was a skipper, all of that had been beat out of me. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen way too many things where it's like, okay, for the greater good. It sounds horrible, but it's like this plane's going down anyway. I mean, I hate to say it, but no one's going to live in this aircraft anyway. Now it's just a question whether they kill 1,000 people on the ground also. So let's minimize the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And then when it's quiet like that, right? To be thinking of that probably all 4
That's
hours
all you're
you're in the
doing.
vault.
Nobody's on the radio. It's creepy. It was creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's
Definitely.
flying. Nobody's talking. It's just silence.
How much longer did you have into post 9/11? Were you get
Another year and a half.
okay?
Yeah.
So you guys
Or
went on
another year.
deployment.
Yeah. So we came back from that. I made all of workups the next cruise. So we got back in, the end of September 2001. Did Noble Eagle for 6 weeks or whatever. Stood down for a heartbeat. There was really no standing down for anyone at this point because we're the surge carrier now. We're still the surge carrier. So we're still, we had to go get night current again. And meanwhile, now Afghanistan's going off. So this is the same time that, we're finding targets in Afghanistan. We figured out the Taliban were involved in all of this. So Afghanistan's getting hammered. And those guys are working hard. So it's a question of, how quickly do we need to, kind of work the carriers through here? How quickly could we get them? Especially for the guy. That's a long flight going from the Persian Gulf into Afghanistan. You know what I'm talking about. And fast forward a few years, you get used to 9-hour flights, but this was, kind of pre 9-hour flights for guys.
Right.
Sitting in an ejection seat. They were worried about how quickly we could get guys, carriers through. And the answer is we couldn't do it any faster. It's just our system's built for what it is. It's short of a world war. I don't see us being able to accelerate any of that to a certain, a great extent. So, we went through a normal workup cycle within 5 months. So a couple months, 3 months, a month off, sort of 2 months of starting to fly again. And then we were back in workups. And I left the squadron in the end of 2002.
Okay.
So a year later, I left after doing workups. I literally said goodbye to them at the pier as they flew off. I'm like, good luck, guys.
And I think that's a pretty good spot to talk here because in the phone call when we were chatting about you went then to Swizzle, right? So
Yeah,
Strike
I
Fighter
went to
Weapons
weapons
School,
school.
Atlantic.
I was the operations officer at the weapons school.
And then when did the Task Force 20 stuff start to, was that like as you got there?
That
or?
was as I was being taught. I was read in to the program while I was still in VF2 because I was one of the more senior FAC A's.
Okay.
So it was still kind of proof of concept at this point, but so I was read in, didn't fly any of the missions with them. Read in, and they told me about what they'd done to that point out in the West and Tonopah and areas like that, about the prep. And so I'm like, okay, I understand what's going on. And then went to the weapons school. We got read in by the DevGru guys on what their part of this was. And there was a lot of moving pieces. It was a big task force. So fast forward 3 months, or not even 3 months. I roll into the weapons school like in November, and by January I am getting re-CQ'd to go back out. So, and Task Force 20 is starting to become a real thing, and meanwhile, you know, I mean, all of us, I don't think any of us thought we were actually going to do this. Like, we were preparing for these missions, but until we actually went, I don't think any of us thought we were actually going to do what we did to Iraq. It was like, I mean, there was a lot of, really? I'm like, we were all about it. Trust me. I mean, I didn't, you know, we're like, it wasn't like we didn't want to do it, but I just didn't think anyone had the stones to do it. I'm like, yeah, the whole world's going to cry. I mean, like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, actually we can, and we did. But so we were practicing these missions, and the initial practices weren't good. So we're getting, and you know, I think you've read about it. You can see what's online.
Yeah.
You know, it was created. It was a multi-service special operations force that, you know, we had DevGru guys, we had Delta guys, we had the SOAR guys from the 160th. We had PJs. We were the FAC-A arm. We had a couple other Air Force FAC-As, but quite honestly, they liked us because Air Force guys use single-seat aircraft to do the mission, which is an absolute mistake. I mean, you can do it, but I still think that having two guys in a plane for that mission specifically is absolutely crucial. And I think the F-14 was one of the best platforms for doing FAC-A because of that. And so we were really good at it. Again, and you know what I'm talking about, that we talked about earlier. We were all Marine TAC-P, you know, we were all Marine trained ground FAC. So, I mean, we understood how crucial this mission is. And when you're dealing with the DevGru guys, it you know, ratchets it up one louder. So next thing you know, it's like, okay, here's what we've decided. And they tell me there was 5 of us that from the weapons school that got sent out to the Connie to join VF2, to augment VF2. Basically, we just stole 3 of their planes. And I was just like thrilled because I'm back on my, you know, back on the Connie. This is, you know, now my 3rd time out there, and my 3rd deployment on the Connie, which was really a good boat for as old as she was. VF2, which I still, you know, was my favorite point in life at this point, with all the guys there, to the point, and some of those guys were so good. Like I said, like, we grabbed Grumpy Kimberly. You know, he's one of the best D drivers in the history of the D. He was a D baby. The guy has more D time than anybody, I think, and knew everything about it. And he was just, you know, he has absolutely no weakness in a plane, actually any plane, but certainly F-14D. And so he was read in, and we used him a lot, and we used the XO as well, Bugdaneni. So we used a couple of the homegrown VF2 guys, which helped a lot. You know, if you have 5 guys flying on, like, hey, we're going to steal your planes. We're going to wear your T-shirts, by the way. And
A little salty.
Yeah, and we're going to steal your planes. Oh, by the way, your best planes. But they were cool with it because we brought enough of those guys in, and they were great. And they were long missions. I mean, you had to brief 4 hours prior to launch because you had to go to the skiff. You had to brief that shit. Then you had to brief with the air wing on their normal shit. Like, you know, they didn't know what we were doing, but they had to know we were out there. We were on the, you know, we were on the ATO after the first night. We were actually out there the night before Shock and Awe. So Shock and Awe, everyone's watching on TV. We actually were flying missions the night before, out in Western Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and it was, you ask every guy from Task Force 20, they'll tell you 10 different reasons why we were born. You know, we were going after Saddam. We were going after, you know, Uday and Qusay. You know, we wanted all the Husseins on a board. We want, you know, all of his castles, everything. We were flying we were flying wherever he had a castle. We were going there. We were going after WMD. That was, you know, we're going to find that. And then another, like a tertiary mission was Scotty Spiker. So I don't know if you've ever heard this, but so we lost Scotty Spiker during Desert Storm. He was a Hornet pilot. BF-81. I forget what squadron. Yeah. So he went down, and not only did he go down, but we never found his body, which was a huge body, you know, and they never talked about it. Like when we rolled over them like a cheap tank, you know, in a week, we couldn't find hide nor hair of what, so we didn't, we didn't know if they'd taken him, whether they'd, hit his body or whatever. And there were a lot of people that weren't happy about that for a lot of reasons. So, we were like, we're going to find where he is. That's going to be one of the, so that was another reason we were out there. And, they were really long, see, early briefs, 7 to 9 hours, depending on how, which cycle you went. The only upside about the whole thing was it was a day trap. Because we would launch at midnight, 2 a.m, anywhere from midnight to like 1, and you're flying all that time. It's like the last hour and a half, 2 hours of the flight was in the day. Your last tank was typically daylight, and you came in for a day case 3 recovery. It was. I'm like, thank God it's still a straight in because I cannot come into a break right now.
I couldn't imagine doing case 1 after that.
Yeah, I don't know where to look. I don't know what to do. And especially because you're in goggles the whole time. I mean, it's just mind numbing. It's just, those things pasted to your head. And, unlike the Air Force, I know the Air Force guys would take, whatever drugs their flight surgeons gave them. We were just like old school Red Bull and coffee. It's like, yeah, but then you have to... You balance that off how many times you want to piss in the cockpit, which is, I just got over it. I'm like, I would dehydrate myself because I'm like, I want to do this once. I can make it 4 hours, 5 hours, piss once and call it a day. But I am not going to just sit here and try to, urinate for 5 days. It's just too painful. Unstrapping all this stuff and trying to pee. I'm like, screw this. So, I'm sure it's probably not the healthiest thing you could probably do to your body, but they were great missions, and we all had to get flight. Flight physicals in the month. I flew for. I have to look at my logbook, but I flew 19 out of 21 days, and we all had like over 100 hours.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I mean it was. And we'd only fly, typically we'd only fly like 2 Task Force 20 missions in a row. And then they'd give us like a normal bullshit carrier mission. I hate to say it. Bullshit, whatever the other guys were doing, dropping bombs. Like we were part of strikes into the rest of the country. I think I dropped, in those like 19 days, I dropped like 68 weapons.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were you guys carrying for those normal missions? What would a normal be for the
normal missions were they were GBU 21s.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, GBU 12s. Sorry,
GBU 12s. Okay.
It was 24s for Task Force 20.
You're carrying around 24s for Task Force 20?
Mm-hmm.
Is that for the WMD or like
we actually had a mixed load, but we had it. I'm trying to think. Actually, I take that back. It wasn't always GBU 24s because we did have GBU 16s on occasion. And then we did a lot of JDAM too. So it wasn't just LG. I would say probably 2/3 of the missions were JDAM. The other third were LGBs.
Were you guys one of the first fleet squadrons to drop JDAM? That didn't come to the Tomcat until pretty late, right?
We were the last. So we were the first because they actually shoved the tape through PAX so we could drop it, GBU 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to get ready for shock and awe, they pushed it through.
So they said, I've never seen the system work faster. They got the tape in, they got it approved, and they're like, okay, you're clear to drop it. We're like, we're gonna blow up.
What is this thing?
Well, first I'm literally walking to the plane, and one of my training officer, Mark Millay, I'm like, Mark, I have fun. Tell me how this thing works. I have no idea how GBU 24 works. And he gave me the kneeboard card and this. And I'm like, that's it? He's like, yeah. I was like, just get these coordinates in. Make sure they're right. He's like, yeah. Like, that's when you realize how ridiculously easy JDAM are. It's like an idiot. Literally, to quote Dos Gringos, it's like, yeah, a monkey can do this shit.
Were you were 500 pounds, so GBU 38s, or were you guys carrying 1,000 pounds JDAM?
2,000 pounds.
Okay. So sorry, you said you were flying the night prior to to Shakana. So like, what did that mission look like? Were you just
I
in
wasn't
there?
on that mission. That was Grumpy. Grumpy
Okay.
flew that mission. Yeah, I got out there a day late. My flight out to Dubai was delayed, so I did not make it in time to the carrier. I took the E2 out of Dubai like a day later, or the C2 a day later. I was supposed to, so I showed. So Grumpy flew.
Okay.
But yeah, we were out in H3, out in the western Iraq, pounding.
Yeah.
So the Pavlos and the DAPs were coming in with DevGru guys and Delta dudes, and they were flying this clockwise route from all the way out to western Iraq, all the way down. And their plan was to come down north, down to the north side of Baghdad,
Okay.
and be on ground. And I'm not sure specifically which bases they were going at. We were to escort the DAPs and the Pavlos through most of that and just provide cover for them. And if there was any surface to air fire, we were supposed to take them out. So the cool thing is we got the 40,000 foot laser on the Lantern just before this happened. So we had the best FLIR system in the Navy at the time. We had 2 guys to operate it. They just put the PTID in, so we had a big display in the back. So we finally had they weren't working off the little MFD, which the downside of the D was Rios had to work off a little MFD before. When they put the PTID in the back, it was, it's like being in a Super Hornet now. It's like one of these huge displays.
Big screen TV.
Yeah. I mean, you come back off the MFD and they're like, why didn't you blaze it? It's right there. And they're like, well, we're looking at it on a 70-inch TV, you asshole. Come and look at it on my 5-inch screen and you tell me what that thing is.
For sure.
Yeah. It's like, I've got an iPhone. I'm looking at my target, trying to just making sure I'm not blowing up a school, you dick. Yeah. Like these intel officers, sometimes you're just like, what? Which is why my phone's so cool.
Can you talk a little bit, when we were on the phone call, you had talked about getting ready for night 1 for Shock and Awe. So the expectation was kind of pretty brutal statistics of what you guys thought you were going to come up against. And then compared to what you actually saw night 1, can you just talk a little bit about what you were expecting versus what you got?
When we left, our final rehearsal, we lost half the fighters. So attrition was 50%. We got it down to 50%. The first time we practiced it, we lost 11 out of 12. Now, if you looked at the overlay of the SAM threat around Iraq in general, it was impressive. I mean, they had everything 10s, 20s, flaplets, all the other shit you don't want to see. Short of a Patriot battery, which ended up shooting down more of us than of them. But it was not. It wasn't a good feeling. Turned out, I don't know whether they didn't want to play. They you hear all sorts of rumors that they didn't want to piss us. Like the operators didn't want to shoot us down because they didn't want to get targeted, so they were intentionally sucking. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, we didn't experience anything compared to what we prepared for. I mean, it was honestly by the 5th or 7th night. I mean, it was. You're just basically drilling circles. I mean, we had complete air supremacy, and we just flew wherever we wanted. And if the guys on the ground needed a bomb somewhere, we just put it through the window. I mean, it was, we babysit them. I remember we raided one at Saddam's castle, and it was on a peninsula on Lake Razaza. And the DAP flies in, so the heel flies in, and it's like a clown car. More dudes come out of this thing. Like, I'm like, are they going to just keep coming? There's porn outside. It's like, whatever. And we got them on the FLIR. We're watching, and we've basically cut off this entire peninsula. We've bombed the shit out of everyone who was below it. So these guys are safe. They basically can do whatever they want. And this is this is again, one of these castles that we thought that there was going to be intel stuff and, for WMD and whatnot. The DevGru guys are in there it couldn't have been 3 minutes. They're, left nothing alive, just savaged the entire place. And then they all pour out and they all get back on the helicopter and fly away. And I'm like, is that it? Is it over? I'm like, yep, they're quick. I would not piss them off.
No kidding.
Yeah. But the threat that we ended up facing was significantly lower than what we practiced for, which is good. I mean, practice. I think the naval aviation has always done that. I think, Top Gun and WTI, they prepare you for things that you probably will never see. Short of going against Russia or China, we're not going to see the threats that we're practicing against.
Yeah, it's that 15-foot gorilla. So when the gorilla's 10 feet, it's not that bad.
No, and that's exactly what we ran into. So it was, I won't say they were comfortable missions, but it wasn't 9 hours of tension. It was 9 hours of I need to stay awake. Which is a much better situation.
Yeah, you brought up the Scott Spiker thing.
Have
That's
you heard
what you
before?
thought you. Yeah, I had.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've read the book about him. There's a lot of, I think, I won't say conjecture. There's just a lot of opinions, and I think what happened to him. Was there anything that you figured out flying the missions, or anything after that, or was it just like, hey, we're looking for him, but nothing really came
We
out
were
of
looking
that?
for him there. I mean, there were, and I will say, of all of the missions that we were supposed to be executing between, killing Hussein and the Sons, finding the WMD, and then, this was kind of an outlier. I'm not even sure. I never heard via official channels that Spiker was on their, the Task Force 20 mantra, but I think it just became an underlying theme for all the guys that were there, because we all wanted to find where he was, what happened to him.
Yeah.
Give some peace to his family and bring back one of our warriors. But yeah, it was like, oh, we found his ejection seat, and there were rumors upon rumors, but nothing ever. No peace, no,
Yeah.
no closure for anybody, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just wild to be, like 10 years on. Yeah, like 10 years on from that, 12 years almost after that, to be searching for that.
Yeah.
So, what else?
So
And then-
how much longer
sorry,
was
go
that? That was TF-20 lasted for how long did you say that you were?
Well, it changed names. Like, I was there for 21 days. I was in and out. It was,
Right.
which was actually great, because I'll never forget, going over with what we practiced for, and not the uncertainty of knowing what we're going to do. I had a new son. My wife was pregnant with our second, and I wasn't real sure whether or not, like, I don't want to make it sound worse than it was, but you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going to survive this. It's like, everyone on Task Force 20 was like, where are you getting your insurance? And that's how I ended up with a Navy mutual aid insurance policy, because you get $1 million term life insurance and they didn't have a war clause. It was the only one. So everyone, like, okay, at least I know my family's taken care of. Went and got that. And we headed off. So fast forward, a month, I'm flying back home into Norfolk on a rotator, and my daughter, my wife and my son are there. It was really excited to be home. And
Yeah.
I'd made 4 deployments at this point, and none of these compared to this, just the 4 weeks that I was gone coming back, because it was a lot of relief. And I had 2 days. Everyone's trying to come back, because it ended much quicker than everyone thought it was. I mean, I think we were all gearing up for a really long conflict, and we rolled over them really quickly. Like, not that I'm shocked in hindsight, but at the time. So I was stuck in Dubai, at the Gulf Hotel, whatever was the cool hotel. I forget what it was.
Dip, I think. Diplomat.
It might have been.
Go.
I
Diplomat.
forget.
I don't
It
know.
had the cigar bar, and I'm literally like, I don't care if I ever leave. I've called my family. I've told my
Really busy here, honey.
I'm alive. I told my mom and dad I'm alive. I'm like, I'm just going to stay here, drink bourbon, and smoke cigars for the next month. They're like, well, we're not sure we can get you on the flight tomorrow. I'm like, I'm good. Call me.
Okay.
Call me whenever you get me the flight. So I was stuck there for like 3 days, and those are the best 3 days. I was just like being alive, and all this, and knowing I was going home was glorious. So then I get home, and then it's back to the weapons school, and that's when they're like, okay, we got a weapons school. At that point, we just consolidated the Hornet weapons school and the Tomcat weapons school into one big weapons school. So we had SWAT slant and the Strike Fighter weapons school, and they combined. So I was sent there to take the OPSO job. Well, there was already a Hornet OPSO, and finally, Buper's like, "This is a mess. We're going to send you to the War College." So I'm like, "All right, that works for me." So yeah, I left the the Strike Fighter Weapons School probably 3 months after that and headed up to Newport.
Were you screened at that point, or were you still waiting?
My screen board was the following April or whatever spring, whenever the screen boards are.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What was it like to be at the War College in the middle of, knowing that things are hitting off still with, I'm sure Afghanistan was still,
well, everything
maybe not popping up. You're in the middle of a global war and terror.
We hadn't found Saddam at this point. We're starting to, everything had changed after 9/11. So I think we were all good with it. The War College classes were really interesting because we had a lot of guys that had done a lot of interesting things in the classes, and we'd all talked about it. I met some other Task Force 20 guys, so we talked about that. And he was a Army Delta guy, great dude. And it's funny because we all had our little piece of that, and we didn't know. I'm sure somebody had the big picture, but we didn't. I didn't. And it was fascinating how good we all operated without knowing everything, because you just rely on your specialty. It's like, you do you really well. And like, all right, we did us. We were good. And the Dev Group guys did them, and the Delta guys and the SOAR guys. SOAR guys are always good. They're always fun to work with. I've worked with them a few times over my career, and you can always count on the Night Stalkers to do whatever you need done.
They sound so freaking amazing.
Yeah. I ended up in flight test at FedEx with a 160th guy who was actually in Mogadishu flying a Little Bird. Oh. Yeah, he was flying a Little Bird during Black Hawk Down. So I'm like, Ronnie, you got to tell me these stories. Yeah, I should give you his name, and you should interview him, because he is a real good guy. I'm sorry?
What's his name?
Rodney Allison.
Okay. Someone just told me about another person who was doing that over Mogadishu the other day, and I wondered if it was the same person, but no. Okay. Yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah, I would love to hear those stories.
He's got great stories. And not to drag this on any longer, but the guest speaker in my WTI mid-killer class was Michael Durant. The guy that got shot down in Black Hawk Down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I had a really deep appreciation for what they did, because he gave a secret level. And then after that, we kicked everyone else, and we went skiff level and on the tapes. And I'm watching what these guys did, and I'm like, damn, you guys can fly. Like, they are really, really strong. So I wouldn't fuck with our Hilo dudes for $1 million. Yeah. Yeah, it was fun to watch. And so Ray Worthington and I, Cal, we ended up getting drunk with Michael Durant at the Yuma O Club till probably 4 a.m. And it was one of the best nights. I'll never forget how cool he was.